me. Jeez, sorry about that. It is Thursday, September 26, 2024 at 6 p.m. We are at the District Service Center in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the land of the Mdewakanton Dakota people. Mdewakanton means dwellers of the Spirit Lake. Our first item on the agenda is the roll call. Dana?
Here.
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 Simi Petnaik.
Here.
Katie Schwartz.
Here. 2.0, Pledge of Allegiance, please stand. Okay, 3.0 is the approval of our agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Whoa.
I moved our way around.
Okay, so that was
Eric?
Ryan.
No, Ryan?
Aye.
Why did you say it? And then Melinda for the second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Comments to the board? At this time, individuals may speak to the school board on any item relating to South Washington County Schools. The board will not respond to or discuss your comments. Character abuse or specific complaints identifying staff, students, or task force members will not be permitted. The superintendent may be asked to prepare a response to your concerns. Each speaker is permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes in total. At 3 minutes, the microphone will be turned off, and we will move on to the next agenda item. We have one speaker signed up for tonight, and 5.0, consent items. All consent items are considered routine and non-controversial by the school board and will be approved by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Prior to this meeting, board members have had the opportunity to review each of these items and may request that an item be moved to an action item for individual consideration. That did not happen this evening, so can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Pat, seconded by Simi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I have to abstain due to having a child on the hiring. So motion passes. On 6.0 is information items. 6.1 is summary of superintendent evaluation, and that will be presented by myself. At the last board meeting on September 12, 2024, the school board entered into a closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05 Subdivision 3A to perform Superintendent Julie Nielsen's yearly evaluation. During that evaluation, we discussed 7 performance standards. They were leadership and accountability, policy governance, communities, communication, values, planning and development, human resource relationships, and financial and organizational management. Julie was rated either proficient or accomplished on all of those 7 standards. Board members did have comments regarding Julie. They said she has good communication, she is easily accessible, she is present in the schools and focused on fiscal management. The board did have a couple suggestions on things that could be areas of focus in the future, and those were financial information more user-friendly on the website, review of programs, and if they don't seem to be working, how can we work on replacing them, and would like to see more on the achievement gaps / data gathering on different or possibly different groupings. And then the board did also form a committee, so to speak, of Simi and Ryan to come up with the goals for the following year. And then they will give those to Julie in the near future. I would like to take this time to thank the board and cabinet members for their time and thoughtful feedback for the superintendent's evaluation. The overall performance was very positive from the director reports as well as the board. Superintendent Nielsen, we thank you for your leadership, vision, positive attitude, and your commitment to the community, district, and students of South Washington County Schools. Thank you. On to 6.2, and that will be our middle school construction update, and that will be introduced by Tyrone Brookins, Assistant Superintendent.
Good evening. Chair Schwartz, school board members, and Superintendent Nielsen, this evening you will be provided with a construction update for the district middle schools. This update will be presented by our architects, Mark DuBois from Como Architects, Paul Apolowski, and Sal Bagley from Wold Architects. And before we get into the presentation, I want to acknowledge we have our middle school principals here on site for support. They can entertain any questions if those questions come up. We have Molly Roski, Carrie Lopez, Joni Hagebach, and Justin Elevo. Also in the audience, we have Kyle Euchre, who is the director of our facilities, who's also part of our construction projects. The presentation will begin with updates on Woodbury Middle School and Oakland Middle School, and then we will conclude the presentation with updates on Cottage Grove Middle School and Lake Middle School. I will now turn the microphone over to our architects from Wold.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board. Superintendent Nielsen, I'm Sal Bagley with Wold.
And Paul Aplikowski with Wold.
And we're very excited to give you another update about how the progress of design has been going for both Woodbury and Oltman. We came to, I think it was a workshop meeting in May to talk about progress thus far, so a lot has happened since then. Reminder for those, or maybe for those who are at home who aren't familiar with the project, the scope of the project at Woodbury Middle School includes renovation at the main office to enhance security, renovation of the former pool area into educational space. There's some long-term facility maintenance funded projects to improve the existing music area. And then last but not least, the creation of a bus road to help with site traffic. We did have an advisory committee that Carrie helped us put together, that also Kelly Jansen served on, and Dan Hines and Kyle Euchre, and then some members of their administration. They had 3 meetings in February and March, and then we went into the user group process where we met with, for example, the music staff to talk about the layout of their spaces, or a few more members of the main office to talk about the nurse's office or things like that. So those user input meetings happened in multiple rounds between April and June. Usually the first drawing we ever show them is not right? So it takes us 1 or 2 times to get the details right, as we are talking about things down to cabinet design and outlet layout. And if any of you've ever done a project at home, it takes a while to get all that right. One of the things the advisory committee helps us do is to really outline the goals of the project. So you had your voters really approve addressing needs, but really this group gets to help us figure out how we're going to meet those needs with the funding that we have. And so writing of these guiding principles and design criteria really helps us say that, these are our North Star, this is how we're going to choose to solve these problems. So some of the key points from that was to be consistent with the district safety and security standards. The Oltman main office, for example, was brought up many times as kind of ideal configurations and things as we think about Woodbury. To create a 3rd music room all throughout the project, and that the way that the former pool could best serve needs was to be a multi-purpose space for the building. So there's lots of ways that they intend to use that. Here's an overall floor plan of Woodbury, only the first level. It's the only level that we're doing any work on. And I've kind of color-coded it here by scope area. So in the green or on the left-hand side of the floor plan there, you can see renovations to create that secure entry sequence so that people have to be kind of buzzed into the office and the kind of why they're in the school pre-screened before they can get any further. So the main office will move from the space that's labeled lobby and actually take over 2 of the classrooms that are directly adjacent to the door. So they're kind of moving towards the door. Then we have the music suite renovation. So there's the 2 existing spaces labeled choir and band that are getting reconfigured and updated. And then there's a space getting taken over to make that 3rd meaningfully sized music space. That's what's labeled orchestra today. And there's some reshuffling of some gym storage and outdoor storage to accomplish that. And then last but not least, conversion of that former pool to the multi-purpose area.
One thing that's interesting about this project, for those that may remember the pre-referendum diagram, is we haven't solved the problem in quite the same way. We have met all of the requirements, and particularly that secure office vestibule. It's a very difficult, challenging site to work on. That building is wedged on the site pretty good. The original idea was to put an addition onto the building, and we were able to figure out how to use some of the excess lobby space that was there in the reconfiguration of the office to do that without an addition in that location, which has put the project in good financial condition. We're under budget currently on that project.
That's a good point. I don't have any slides particularly about this, but we do work closely with the construction manager, Kraus Anderson, and they do estimates all along the way. So we have kind of just passed through our 3rd estimate of the project as we prepare to go out to bid. So as Paul said, we're in good standing. Here's a site plan, so it just fits better on the slide this way. So the last drawing was rotated the other way. Now north is to the left, just because it's a very long, narrow site. The buildings are called out in gray on the bottom, so you can obviously see the elementary school and the high school. And that school drive is where really everything has to come and go from right now, which leads to parents for the middle school, staff for the middle school, buses for the middle school, parents for the elementary school, right? So everybody's really trying to get in and out from the same area. And there's a proposal in the design to include a new road for buses to enter the site and leave from the site, so they can get all the way down to kind of the middle school bus parking area to take at least one form of major traffic out of the mix. I do think they have, Carrie told me, I think it's 27 buses this year, so it's a lot of them, and they're arriving and leaving really at the same time that some of the other major traffic points are happening. This is something that we've talked about extensively with the City of Woodbury, so we've had every other week meetings with them to talk about this and what they want to see from a city engineering perspective. And then we actually have submitted drawings to them already, so those are under review. To be able to accomplish this road, which is called out in that golden color, we will have to, I'm calling that, reorient some fields. We're really kind of cutting across where the fields are today, but then we reconstruct them a little bit closer to the building. So you can see there's a kind of a multi-purpose practice field and a softball field that will get constructed as the result of the grading. When we design projects, we really like them to be rooted in the community that they serve and to be highly unique to the building, as opposed to being just something that we come up with randomly. And so our team spent a lot of time talking about the development of the City of Woodbury and the priorities that have been held true as that city has developed. And the Woodbury Historical Society had a quote that was really inspirational to our team about that as Woodbury continued its steady growth, that parks were developed featuring many different amenities. And today, all the open space continues to be, make the city a wonderful place to live, and why many of your families might choose to live there and come to your schools. And so as we studied that development of the city, we really wanted to take note of how it was shaped and how natural elements have played with the built elements. And so we studied where there are bodies of water within the district, where the built infrastructure to get people from A to B is, and how the nature systems are really integrated with that. And one of the interesting things to note is really the very strong relationship between your school sites, which are noted in yellow, and your nature systems, right? There's a real interhandedness between those community amenities. And so we thought that that might be a strong thing to bring into the Woodbury Middle School project to kind of bring that value about outdoor space in. We did take some inspiration from adjacent nature systems, so I won't go through all of them, but you can see there's Cree Park or Fish Creek, Tamarack Nature Center, what have you, as well as some inspiration from just kind of our beautiful state in broad terms around trails, parks, and lakes. And so we really started to work to develop a design language about how that would apply to the building. I'll go through this kind of quickly so we can get to what's happening at your building.
And just to wrap your head around it, there's really three components to it.
Yep.
There's
Go ahead.
bodies of water, and then trails, and then the park are kind of the three components, the design elements that we're building around.
Yeah, so first was body of water. The left are inspiration images. That's not Woodbury Middle School, as you probably know. So bodies of water, really, we thought of those are landing spaces, big central open. The sky opens up, right? Large gathering spaces. Parks are a destination. We wanted to really celebrate visibility and light. Obviously, it's a place where people come together. And last but not least, trails being obviously getting you from A to B and what it does to lead your eye down a path, maybe have a moment to pause off to the side, right? Why do people try to use trails? And so as we look at the floor plan of the building, you can see here, this is the scope areas with colors superimposed with some of this design concept onto it. And so we were really treating the lobby area as that body of water, right? It's our central landing space. It's kind of the most open area in the building, as well as our multi-purpose. It's another one of high volume space. And then there's trails that really take you from some of these destinations to each other. And then last but not least, where the main office used to be, we're going to have a nice flexible open area. So that is what we're determining to be the park. And you'll see that in kind of our application.
And part of what this does is, obviously the building is going to function really well. And we work really hard, and all of this input we had is talking about how it's going to work and make sure it functions well. This is really to give it an extra feeling, so we think about the experience people have within a building. And we believe that if you invest in this kind of design and make an environment that is open and pleasing and welcoming, that the occupants of the building, the students, the teachers feel valued in the process. So that's our goal.
For those who haven't been to Woodbury Middle School anytime recently, so here's just a couple pictures of that lobby and main office space today. So right now the main office is kind of an island in the center of the lobby, and you have to kind of go across a circulation area to get to it. So we're obviously trying to move that up towards the main door. But there are some existing finishes in that space, so just kind of views. Then as we started thinking about all of these nature systems, kind of put together a mood board, for example, of how we might be able to incorporate these colors into the project. And then we worked with Carrie and her team to actually propose real materials. So there is a material sample board that she has at her building that shows physical samples of any of these. But I'll kind of go through this pretty quickly. So on the left-hand side, we've got proposals for cabinets and counters. Then we've got some wood panels that are acoustic treatments kind of towards the upper center of the slide, along with some those two blue tones that say Buzzy. That's an acoustic material that also allows for you to tack things up on it, kind of a dual-purpose product. We've got your existing building paint palette and some proposed accent paint colors to really bring in some of those natural colors. Then on the bottom is really all of our flooring and tile. So there's some existing terrazzo flooring and some new terrazzo that we'll be patching and putting in. Then we've got a couple of different carpet colors for the administration area, the music area, and then in the vestibule, knocks snow and salt better off boots than other carpets. A hard surface flooring, that's what LVT is. And then last but not least, some tile on the wall, both for protection as well as an accent. So now we'll move into kind of space by space. So this is a floor plan and what we call an axon drawing. It's kind of like you're looking down into the space. So this is it's really a snippet out of our user group book. So this reflects all of the conversations we had with users throughout the design process. I'll kind of walk you through. The floor plan is probably the easiest. So bottom left is the secure vestibule. And if you've been to Oltman, this is a familiar process, but you would come into that space and then be led into the main office. So that's what's labeled reception. And there's space for 3 positions there. And then you can see off of reception, there's only a few things you can actually get to. There's a large conference room to the north of that. There's a bathroom in case you're a visitor and need somewhere to go to the bathroom. And then if you keep going to the right, you can get over to the nurse's suite so that 6 students can kind of come be picked up by a parent or family member. Then there's a door that would really stop you from getting further in the office unless that's why you were there. And you can see the principal and the 2 assistant principal and dean's offices are kind of on that other side. And they have their own door to the hallway so that they can really have a different feeling for operating with students. And there's a little bit of a waiting area there so that not all students, if they're coming to see, for example, the dean, have to come way down into reception. So those were some important relationships we worked on through the user group process. And I have a few views of what that's proposed to look like. There's a little key in the bottom left of all of these, so it kind of shows the floor plan. The little red dot is where you're standing, and then the cone is kind of the field of vision. So the vestibule is right behind us. The exterior wall is right to our left. That's that window. And then you can see there's a kind of a presentation or digital display wall ahead of us, and then the reception desk to our right. There's been some discussion about making sure to celebrate being inside your school district when we come in, so some branding on that wall behind. There's a little bit of Woodbury branding on the outside. And then here's a view of the other directions. Now we're kind of in the opposite corner looking back at the vestibule. We spent a lot of time talking about visibility so that the people at this desk can see who's coming up to the building, can see who really is buzzing in, and be able to see back out into that lobby. That's something that's valued today. And then that door on the left-hand side would be the door to the nurse's office, just to give some context. Then if we move out into the lobby, so this is really where the main office used to be. So there's going to be an opportunity for a lot of different features to support small groups and individuals. So we've got a soft seating zone kind of just on the other side of the nurse's office. We've got a little bit of a waiting area as students go into student services. And then at some existing columns, we did some built-in countertops and benches. So a little bit of incorporation of small group work. And I think it's 5 renderings of this, so I'll kind of step you through it. So main office to our left now. And like I said, some identification of the building on that wall. Then you see that open, that water element that we're hoping to have that feeling evoked from. So that's the blue ceiling element over that soft seating area. Then we've got our trail off to the right-hand side that takes you kind of from one wing of the building to the other. You can see student services there. And then in the distance, we've got that counter. Now we've kind of stepped further into the space, and we're really staring right now at what would be the office volume. So that open seating area off to the left with some of that accent tile and then a wood ceiling and then those built-in counters. We are proposing to paint the existing lockers on the right-hand side, so those are kind of a very royal blue right now, and so to kind of neutralize that inside the lobby environment. So lockers are staying, just getting painted. A little closer view of that soft seating area. And then last but not least, that built-in counter area. So there's some existing columns that really had to stay because of the design, but decided to give them a job to be able to do some either intervention work, or a small group could leave a classroom and come out here. And then the waiting area right outside student services. So there's a built-in bench, and then that blue curved element is that acoustic product that's also like a tackable surface. So a little bit of display, but also will help with sound.
So one of the benefits that we're able to achieve, this really stems from not doing the addition and pulling that office into the existing space. We're able to create a little bit of a center. So that building currently feels like a bunch of hallways, and there's a bit of a lobby, but it's kind of disconnected from circulation. This sort of puts a gathering spot as the center of the school, and hopefully will give it some identity.
So is this on? Did you just take then the current lobby space, or sorry, current office space and incorporate that into this new lobby area?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to an overall floor plan just because that'll be the easiest to talk over. Gotta go way back, I guess. So you can see the new office arrangement is that L-shaped yellow. And so what that does is it takes some of what was open space and 2 classrooms. We've worked with Carrie on kind of rearranging the building assignments. So then where it says lobby and park, it's a little hard to see in here, but there's actually some columns. So there was really like a square-shaped office in the center there. So that's what's moved. Okay. What's staying is what's labeled student services here, just below lobby. There's another yellow So there's some renovations happening in there for some positions that are going to stay in the same physical location they are, just with some like acoustic improvements and things like that. So a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I got to click all the way back. So then when we talk about the music suite, I have 2 slides for this. So you can see on the left-hand side, these are already music rooms today. What they have is a series of very, very small practice rooms that are all kind of serving as storage rooms today. And really what they wanted was a larger practice area. So you can see the rooms have been kind of reconfigured to support that in the center, along with a storage, some equipment storage, and then a shared office at the back. These rooms will have flat floors now, so that'll be a big change for flexibility. And then on the right-hand side is a 3D view of that, in case that's a little bit easier for you to interpret. Then the third space that doesn't exist yet today is what the group has been talking about using for orchestra. And so they also wanted an office and a practice area. So you can see that there's a large group teaching area labeled orchestra. Then there's a practice room for more like ensemble type work, and then an office. And then we had to do some reconfiguration of other elements that were here today, like the outdoor storage, things like snowplow and all that good stuff. And then there's some storage for the gym and community education. So that's right off of the gymnasium there.
And again, this is an attempt to repurpose space to achieve your goals without having to, again, add on to the building or things like that.
Yeah, I didn't see it before, but there was a strong value system in the group of really trying to create a department out of music, so having all 3 spaces co-located, as opposed to having 2 co-located and a third somewhere else in the building. Last but not least, the multi-purpose room. So this is a space that's really proposed to serve a lot of different needs. Certainly, I think there's a lot of activities and physical education that can be imagined in here, but even for like large gatherings and presentations and things like that, it's been a lot of the discussion. So proposed to have a multi-purpose floor, a projector, a sound system. There will be an entrance to the space. I guess I'll go off of the right-hand drawing. So you can kind of see there is proposed to be a door out to the gymnasium area, and then you can come down either a stair or a ramp to get into the space. So the group wanted to maximize the volume that's still there. So we had to do some reconciliation of heights to get down to what you think of as pool deck level today. So the pool volume is getting filled in, but we're kind of having a floor at deck level. And then there's some old pool mechanical rooms that were no longer needed, so that can serve as storage. And then there will also be some storage where the viewing area, the bleachers, used to be. So some storage benefits from that. And here's a view of what that's proposed to look like. So that's where that multi-purpose floor is, with some striping incorporated into it, painting of structure. The blue shapes off to the right-hand side and the left-hand side are acoustic panels to try to make that a less echoey space, and then just some incorporation of some light branding. From a schedule perspective, we've been in design since January, and like I think I've mentioned, we're kind of coming to the moment of about to go out to bid, so planning to be done with design in October. Bid date is currently set for November 12th, and then construction is slated for kind of middle of 2025 through middle of 2026. I do have a phasing plan. So you can see here, this is the current phasing plan showing where contractor laydown and parking is proposed to be. The red dashed line is proposed construction fencing. And then I think the next slide explains it a little bit better, but you can kind of see the color coding proposed for the phasing. So the first phase is proposed to be the multi-purpose room. So that would be kind of middle of next year through the end of the year. Then phase 2 is the creation of the third music space in currently kind of underutilized space. So that will be in January of 2026 through May. And then last but not least, in summer of 2026 will be the music renovations as well as the main office renovations. So that's the phasing as currently planned. Obviously, you can see there's draft on all of this because we still obviously have 6 weeks or so left for design. We can. Oh,
Yeah, can I
please.
ask so for the new bus road, so the buses will still come in on School Drive, or is there?
They will be able to come and go from this. Yep, so they could enter the site on this new road. It won't have a name, right?
Okay, so they won't use School Drive at all?
That's the proposal, yep. And then there's provision, a little bit of reconfiguration happening down there so that they could come in, park, and then turn around and leave kind of the same way they came.
Okay.
So kind of remove a whole traffic source.
Okay, and then how will the kids get into the school, right? Because isn't there like?
There's a door back there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Okay. And then will, like, the car, sorry. Will the car pickup work the same way too, or is that gonna try, are you gonna try to reconfigure that?
No, then the car part will work the same way, and it'll be a lot less because the buses are the ones that back up our whole car situation.
And so now, I mean, I don't think anyone else has kids at Woodbury Middle, but
You
I have
know.
children at Woodbury Middle, and I cannot stress how excited I am for this. I mean, they're not there anymore, but like, so you will be able to, like, the buses will be able to exit and a car will be able to exit at the same exact time.
Right, because right now, everybody, all 100 employees, all 27 buses, all 6 special ed buses, all are coming in at the same time and leaving. Then the buses are trying to leave, so yeah. You know, Simi, it's pretty bad.
I'm very excited about this.
So am I.
Any other questions?
Or comments on Woodbury, or Carrie, if there's anything you wanted to add to the
No,
process?
it's just I'm really excited about it, yeah.
This will be done, you're estimating that this will be done for the fall of 2026?
Yep. It's kind of in 3 major phases, but that's the proposal right now, yep.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Is there anything on the critical path that still remains for the design phase of the project?
No, I would say, we haven't finalized our work with the city, so I'll just put that out there, that we've gotten a couple rounds of comments back from them, but we still have to go through the official site plan and building plan review process. But, the design has been in progress since January, and we meet pretty regularly with, for example, Kyle and Dan from a technical side, and then also all of our consultants, so all the engineers on the project. So, no, I don't think so.
Very good, thank you.
All right, well, if you think of a Woodbury question, we can always go back, but maybe next we'll move into Altman Middle School. So the proposal, or the project scope at Altman Middle School is really around growth and capacity, right? So the spaces that have been identified to include is 2 STEM classrooms, a multi-purpose room, 3 science classrooms, 9 general classrooms, 2 medium group rooms, and more flex or pod space, right? That kind of space in between the classrooms. There's also expansion of the cafeteria kitchen and some modifications to the serving line. And this is one of the projects that, as you see projects coming forth, we will have to comply with the tornado shelter requirements, so I'll point that out. This advisory committee took a little bit longer. It's a bigger project, so they met a couple times in January and February, but it did continue into March. And their user groups did extend from April until July. So we had a few more groups to meet with and a little bit more nuance. That advisory committee did also help us write guiding principles and design criteria. So some of the key points, one of the things that was really important to the group was that the additions should look and feel like they match the rest of the building, right? Wanted it to feel holistic and comprehensive. So you'll actually see that in an upcoming slide about building upon the material palette and the design, not taking it in a new direction. That the pod layout will vary from the existing, and that we should find opportunities for flexible learning for science and STEM. So you'll see that in the layout. Here is a site plan of the building. So the existing building is shown in that gray outline, and then the 2 addition/renovation areas are in yellow. Then I think I'll go to some existing photos and color palette. So for those who haven't been to Altman in a while, or maybe if anyone watching from home has never been to Altman, it's a building that really has strong identification by color pod. So each pod kind of has a color, and that's a wayfinding feature. And so we really wanted to build upon that when we started thinking about our color palette. So there's a lot of materials certainly that are, replication of what they have before, right? If something's still in production, let's use it again. But the existing 3 pods are in the upper right-hand corner as kind of an orange or tangerine, and aqua and a purple are the 3 colors. And so the group proposed and agreed with the idea of having the new pod be kind of a goldenrod color. And then the science and STEM is actually its own pod, and they wanted that to be green. And so that's kind of rounding out that color palette. Other things you can see on here is there is some existing paint colors at the top, and we're proposing to reuse many of those for that comprehensive look. We've got some cabinets and countertops that'll be inside classrooms and storage areas. We've got our terrazzo floor in the bottom right-hand or bottom left-hand corner, the pod carpet, and then some tile and windows. So a lot of familiar things on this. Here is a view of the classroom pod area. So this will be off the south of the building based on that site plan I just showed you. There will be 5 general classrooms on the bottom level and 4 on the upper level, all surrounding that pod space. Then we've got a couple of medium group rooms and conference rooms in that blue color you can see to do supportive services and small group work. There is a connection back to the existing building at 2 moments, so you can get in. There's 2 sets of doors on both levels, as well as a connection kind of off to the right to the next pod over, because there's kind of that back hallway at Altman, right, and those back steps. So the group wanted to replicate that. We will certainly have more lockers, we have more bathrooms, we have more space to clean, so we need another custodial closet. So there's kind of a service area in the upper right-hand corner of both levels, as well as the mechanical area. And then the right-hand side is an axon view of one of those levels, right? So you can see the choices that the advisory committee made around having, still transparency and operability out to that pod space and things like that. Just a couple of views of what that's proposed to look like. So again, this is, I'll tell you the floor plans on the left. Where you're standing is the little dot, and then there's a cone of vision. So this is on the main level. One of the kind of iconic parts of Altman is that huge expansive curtain wall getting to look outside, and so that was a value that the group wanted to continue with. So you can see that, and then entrances into the classrooms here. And then if we turn around and look the other way at the connection back to the building, there's that small group or conference room in the center, and then 2 doors to come and go from to go out to the lockers in that main hallway. Then if we go outside, again, that view, have a little bit more volume on the upper level, and looking back towards the rest of the building. Some of the other things I should say that are kind of known about the design of Altman is the incorporation of some of these ceiling features, kind of the hanging acoustic treatments, and so wanted to replicate that, but just in our new color. Here's our science and STEM pod. So this is on the first level. This is where I mentioned we will have that storm shelter. So the storm shelter will be this part of the building. The axon is probably the easiest to understand here. So the main hallway is like kind of being bisected or cut through. There will be a new pickup and drop-off door on that upper right-hand corner. Then in order, we will have 2 STEM rooms with a shared storage room, and then 3 science rooms with a shared prep room. And then kind of on the hallway side, we will have some bathrooms and a data closet and some other support features. And there will be a series of, we call them shutters, but it's really openings that have something that can come down and cover them in the event of a storm. So there will be a few of those along that way so that it can feel quite open when it's not a tornado, right? And you'll see a little bit of that in this view. So here's an example view of what that entrance to that pod would look like from the main hallway. Where those students are standing, that's one of those openings I was mentioning, right? So can feel open, facilitate circulation, but in the event of a storm, there would be a coiling shutter that comes down that's protective. And a couple of the features here, a fun thing that our group looked at was the sign for Altman in the bottom left-hand corner just kind of has some iconography on it, some shapes, and they thought it would be fun to bring that into the building. So that's what influenced like the wood pattern on the wall, right? Because there's not a science and STEM pod to take inspiration from today. So kind of reinterpreting some existing features. Then above that, there will be the multi-purpose room, which will be very similar to kind of the community rooms that like Lake and Cottage Grove, the Den at Woodbury Middle, same idea, right? A large gathering space. So here's a floor plan and axon of that, and we have 2 views. So here's a view looking out towards the exterior. We've obviously got incorporation for presentation and flexibility, some tackable wall surface, some branding on the left-hand side, kind of subtle nod to South Washington County branding there with that wood feature. And then here's looking back towards the entrance to the rest of the school.
One of the things we work really hard at, these storm shelters have become a code requirement, and it's quite a bit more expensive to go build a dedicated bunker somewhere. So we're really working hard to try to make sure that we make a great learning environment that can also be a storm shelter. So you can see we have lots of windows, and those windows are actually, they're made out of ballistic glass, so they can take a 2x4 at 200 miles an hour hitting it, and it won't shatter. So hopefully it's deceptively normal looking, but it really is armored for a direct hit from a tornado.
Do we have to do that for our others? Do we have to do that for our other schools?
Some of them, yes. It's triggered by an addition to the building. If you increase the capacity of the building, the code says you have to do this. If you don't increase, so at Woodbury Middle, for instance, we're not doing it. That's part of the advantage of not doing the offices. We didn't have to make that into a storm shelter.
Oh, sorry, it was reacting. Okay, so now we'll go to the other addition. So there's a view of the outside on the left-hand side, but I'll talk through the floor plan that's on the right-hand side of the slide. So there's kind of a dashed gray line, and so you can see that's where the existing building ends right now. There's a series of columns and then just a big window. And so kind of from there to the left is the cafeteria expansion. So you can see there's a suggestion of a table layout and things like that. There's a set of doors that will end up getting moved out. So you can see that on the north-hand side. And then the kitchen is expanding in footprint a little bit and then some reconfiguration. So there will be a dish room added as a part of the addition. And then inside the serving area, there will be both new equipment and reconfigurations of equipment to try to get better serving area flow. So we can't just add more students to the same system, right? So all of this was to make sure that we can properly accommodate the capacity. Then on the right-hand side, there's a series of smaller rooms that are table storage and concessions, and for the most part, there's not a lot of changes happening in those. A couple views of that, so just to orient you, the columns that you see kind of halfway through the image, that's where the space stops today, right? So that's the exterior, so from there to the next set of windows is where the addition is. Still trying to prioritize getting natural daylight quite deep into this space. So you can see there's some high windows proposed where the existing window is today, and then quite a bit on the outside. I'll zoom in a little bit on a future slide, but there has been discussion about how can this space try to help reduce stimulation for some students for whom that loud, incredibly voluminous environment is a lot. So there's a little bit of a calm zone planned for the back corner. Here's a view looking towards the kitchen and servery and that set of doors. Obviously you can see to the exterior here. And then here's that calm zone. So it's not enclosed because still wanted it to be flexible and supervisable, but try to have a little bit of a lower ceiling just in case there's students for whom sitting at that more typical cafeteria table isn't their most comfortable. A few views of the exterior now. So here's a view of the cafeteria addition proposal. So the existing building is kind of seen off to the right-hand side. So the cafeteria gets a little closer to the curb line, and then the brick that's on the left-hand side would be that dish room expansion. Just that same space from another view. And then we can step down towards the south addition. So that's the STEM, science, multipurpose, and classroom pod. So here's a view kind of from the pickup and drop-off area. So the addition would be off to the right-hand side here. Similar to the interior, really working to build upon and respect the material palette that's already on the building. There's kind of a rich variety of metal panels and brick colors, and so applied in a very similar way. Here's a view of that new pickup and drop-off door. So its existing building is to the left, and the new building is to the right of that set of doors in this image. Then if we keep going down to the south, the students already enter the building on the south part of the building from the bus area, but we obviously have to remake that set of doors because that's where we're plugging in. So door 4 will end up moving further south, and that will be the bus entry. And then if I just step one more time around, you can see that large window on the right-hand side that's really seeking to mimic that other pod language. So there will be a fourth one of those as you look at that facade of the building. Schedule perspective, we also started in January on this project, and this one is actually going out for bid in just a few days. So coming up on it, and the bid opening is scheduled for October 30th at this time. And construction is proposed to start next spring and go through the summer of 2026, so just slightly more than a year. Here is Kraus Anderson's kind of staging / phasing plan. So as you can see I'm going to start on the south side. The dash red line is kind of what's going to be construction area for a little while. So there's material laydown where the job site trailer is going to be. And that building addition is proposed to be from April of next year through August of 2026. So that one will take about, was that like 14 or 15 months? Then the cafeteria addition is proposed to be June through December of 2026. So obviously we've been working closely with Joni and her team about making this an operational school site while it is having significant construction.
The basic premise here is to build the additions outside of the school building during the school year to take advantage of that time, and then summer will be used to knit it all back together again.
And since the cafeteria is quite integral, that is proposed to start more in the summer. And then here's that same phasing plan just with the same color coding as Woodbury. So you can see here that phase 1 is the big addition on the south. That's in that kind of electric blue color. So again, April through August of the following year. Then phase 2 is the shell of like kind of the expansion of the cafeteria. So they'll start that in June, go through December. And then they will do all of the renovations in summer 2026 of the stitching it all together. So that is the proposal right now for phasing at Altman. And Joni, anything you would want to add to that, please do. Oh, you snuck up behind me. I was glancing up.
Just in case there were questions,
Yeah.
Is there?
So, questions, comments?
So it looks like the construction and where the drop-off is the same, or the parent drop-off is the same area, right? Or am I reading this wrong?
Yep.
So is there going to be an impact on the traffic flow or parent drop-off? I mean, I see that there's like temporary walkways, but, so what is where are kids going to actually be when they get dropped off?
It's going to be reconfigured a little bit during construction at various times, but not a lot. Yep. Do you want to answer that?
So once everything is finished, where are they gonna be dropping off?
Well, actually, that too, but also during the
During
construction.
construction, I think is the question.
Yeah, but we're kind of reconfiguring through the parking lot. We've got a couple of different options or plans right now to how we can route either the buses through and then the parents would come through our bus loop. We're looking at exploring a couple of different options.
And that's for during construction. And then after construction, will it just be the same as it is now?
It'll return back.
Yeah.
to what
Okay.
it is
Yeah.
now. Correct.
Yeah, good question. Any other questions or comments for Altman? Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Turn it over to Mark.
Okay, good evening, board members and superintendent. The projects that I will be updating on are Cottage Grove and Lake Middle School. They are two sites being built and designed as one project. So they will be designed, bid, and constructed simultaneously. Because of the overall referendum schedule of projects, this project and these sites, the design is not as far developed as the ones we just looked at. So just as a heads up and an expectation. But I will give you an update. We are now through the first phase of design, which we call schematic design, and we're moving into the next design development. As a reminder, the scope of the project at both sites, as you may be familiar, both buildings are very similar in their architecture and orientation. And so we are looking to create an addition that brings the administration forward into a secure entry and administration addition. And by doing that, we will then have some existing office administration space within the building that can be renovated. And you'll see slight differences between the two. The additions are very similar to mimic and continue the existing architectural feel of the buildings, materiality, and even orientation. But the interior remodels are slightly different based on the needs of the particular school. Again, the main driver of this was to create a more secure entry. If you're familiar with the existing entry sequence of both buildings, there is a secure vestibule, but once inside that, the visitor or guest or parent pretty much has free reign to go throughout the school. This addition and remodel will seek to resolve that by creating a one secure entry point. As has been our custom throughout all the projects, we have a leadership team that is one leadership team for each building, consists of the principal and sort of the key administrative staff. And we have met individually and met together throughout the spring and the summer and into the fall. I'll start with Cottage Grove Middle School. This is an aerial view, partial of the site, honed in on the area of the addition, which is in purple. Again, for orientation's sake, the existing main entry is just on the top side of this addition, that kind of curve. Due to the expansion and the increased, what we call impervious area of this addition, we are going to have to incorporate a small stormwater retention pond in the front, and this will cause and give us the opportunity for reconfiguring landscaping in this front area as well. It's not shown on these plans because it hasn't been developed, but conceptually that's what will be happening. The entry sequence, as we'll look at in further detail, will remain in essence the same traffic flow, the same visitor experience. As an orientation of the entire building, this overall plan, if you're familiar with the lettering designations of Cottage Grove as well as Lake, gives you an orientation. The purple being the addition, and then that teal color in the middle being the area of renovation, and we'll look at that in more detail. One of the things to note, if you're familiar with the building, is on the plan about north or the left side where Area B is, at Cottage Grove there is an addition that was put on several years ago that serves special education needs. And I will highlight that when we get to Lake Middle School and some of the renovations that they are planning to do. But that addition is not part of Lake Middle School. This gives you an axonometric view of the addition towards the bottom of the view and the remodeling space. At Cottage Grove, after meeting with the leadership team and developing a program of spaces, it was determined that the existing space to be renovated, which is the current administration front office, should turn into more of a student services hub. So that will include staff such as the cultural liaison, the psychologists, counselors, special ed coordinator, and the dean. So that will become their new home, and that will be a more centralized location for those functions. The addition, as I mentioned, is primarily administration, but also a health office. So we're moving all of those functions together around a new secure front entry vestibule. To get a little more detailed into the flow for a visitor or a parent coming in now, they'll be coming into a secure vestibule, which is in yellow. And from that point, the interior doors of that vestibule will be locked during the day. So they will take a right in this plan and be buzzed in through a system that a greeter on the inside of this secure administration office will interact with the person and allow them into the main office, into a waiting area. At that point, obviously, they can take care of the business that they are there for. The principal, assistant principals, and an office coordinator will be within that secure administration addition. The health office and area is also part of this new addition, and it's in that kind of mauve color. So that's going to be a new location that will be accessed by the students on the top side, plan north, where there'll be a reception of the student. They can assess their needs. The nurse will have an office there as well, the cots, and a restroom for their use. Highlighting again the interior remodel of the existing administration office in the center of the space in the teal color. Again, as I mentioned, there'll be a new office and space for students to be with the cultural liaison. The psychologists will be there, counselors will be there, administration for the counselors, and the special ed coordinator and dean will take over the existing principal and assistant principal offices. A preliminary exterior elevation of that addition. Again, the intention was to expand upon the existing architecture, materials, forms, heights, openings, and you can see even the new entry under the canopy is similar to what is existing today. This being the view coming up from the parking lot. So that's Cottage Grove.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So on the slide that has the, if you go back a couple slides, there's like where the purple and the mauve and the yellow are. So if I'm a parent and I'm coming to pick up my child who's in the nurse's office,
Yes.
how am I prevented from going out into the building once I get into the secure area?
Once you're into the waiting area?
Yeah.
The door to the rest of the building is also secured, so you need to be buzzed out through, or if you were, correct me if I'm misspeaking about the process, but my understanding is that the nurse would bring the student to you.
Oh, okay.
In the waiting area.
Yeah, the proximity, and one of the reasons of moving the nurse office is too, right now it's such a long, right now our nurse's office is in the main commons area, so it's a long jaunt of sorts to bring the student to the parent, because we don't want to have parents and guests entering the building. So changing the configuration to make the proximity a lot closer, you will need to be buzzed in and buzzed out, but the nurse and kind of that face-to-face contact is important as well too, because a lot of times that conversation of what's going on or things of that sort. So just lessening that or increasing that proximity. So.
Oh, and then the kids will still be able to, they come in the back like with the buses, right? And that's not, none of that is changing.
Correct.
Correct, yep. On the back side, on the east side, the back bus parking lot, that's all staying the same.
Okay.
Right.
Is there any change to how the car line and stuff will work?
No, that'll operate as usual as well too.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Any other questions about Cottage Grove Middle? I can say, again, schedule-wise, and maybe we'll get to that at the end, but this work will begin construction in January of 2026. So that's part of why we're not as far along in the design, because it's not going to be bid out and constructed. The plan is for it to be constructed, the addition, starting in January of 26, and then in the summer of 26, after school is out, then the administration offices can move into it and then be renovated, so that by the fall of 2026, all construction will be done on the site. Okay, Lake Middle School, a similar approach, similar buildings, similar needs. Again, here is the overall aerial view showing the addition in purple, and some reconfigured landscaping will need to occur in the front due to this stormwater retention. Also, at both Cottage Grove and Lake, we will be replacing some of the existing trees that are kind of near the front of the building now to make way for the new path from the parking lot sidewalk up to the new front entry. Again, similarly, the overall building, as you can see, if you remember from the overall plan at Cottage Grove, that area B, you see here there is not an addition for special education and some of the high needs. So that started to drive the discussion about what should happen within the existing administration office once it is vacated and can be remodeled. So the team together determined that the best use would be to make that more of a special education hub in the center of the building. So while the renovations will be minor, you can see again the color, the teal color is the basic extent of renovations at Lake Middle School, lesser than at Cottage Grove. But in those spaces will be, some sensory rooms, some additional sensory rooms. And this is taking place mainly in the existing nurses and health area. So we're going to create some sensory rooms. We're also going to expand the existing restroom to create a large changing room to allow for a Hoyer lift and other special needs, which will align it with what Cottage Grove Middle has in their special ed area as well. We're also going to have psychologists and outside service provider spaces in some of the existing offices, like the principal's office and assistant principal's office, which will now be vacated. Again, the addition is very similar, but some of the spaces inside and some of the uses will be slightly different because the counselors will be moving up to this administration addition along with the principals and assistant principals. So that's where you might be able to detect some slightly different floor plan changes. But the main flow of traffic remains the same. To the front, secure entry, buzzed in by the greeter into the secure administration office, and then buzzed out if the person needs to go out into the rest of the building. The health office area remains identical in Lake as it was shown in Cottage Grove. So again, this is just the colored floor plan identifying very similar functions as we looked at for Cottage Grove. Again, very similar conceptual rendering of the entry, the new entry into Lake Middle School. Any questions specific to the Lake site?
What is the threshold for, so there's not a stormwater retention there now?
No, there's not.
Okay, what is the threshold before the water, I assume the watershed district tells us we have to make a stormwater retention, or?
Yes, I'm not being a civil engineer, I'm not going to speak specifically to that, but I know that in our consultants' review with the cities and understanding of the codes, this addition, which is roughly 5,000 square feet of a building, does trigger the current code requirements.
Does it, so this triggers also that 200 mile an hour glass?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
And it's a bit of nuance of the code, but the addition, it's an addition, but also an occupant load. And because these occupants and this space is not a classroom setting, it has a different occupant load, meaning there's fewer occupants that will occupy the space according to the building code. And so because we're below that threshold, the storm shelter requirement's not triggered in these projects.
Okay. And the retention pond is not triggered for Oltman or for Woodbury? Oh, it is. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. Thanks.
So as I mentioned earlier, the schedule is that these projects will go out to bid sometime in February, and then the bidding will be in February, March, and open in April. But again, due to the scheduling that Kraus Anderson, the construction manager, has detailed out for all of these projects, it was determined that it would make the most sense to start this one in January due to the length of construction so that it would be ready by the time school starts in the fall of 2026. And through the schematic design and now moving into the design development phase, we are also tracking on budget with this project. So I guess I can run through this slide. It's sort of combined for all of us. The next steps, as obviously we are presenting the updates to the middle school projects this evening, and has been mentioned, all of the projects, middle and high school projects, are currently or about to bid or will be bid between now and April. The bidding periods and bids being taken. And then in December, at this board meeting, our teams will come back and give updates of the high school projects. And as it's mentioned here, our teams will also be starting the design in 2025 for elementary school projects. And so in 2025, we'll be coming back to give more updates of that. Okay, thank you very much.
Any final questions? No, thank you. Okay, we will move on to 7.0, action item. 7.1, Nordic Ski Co-op, and that will be introduced by Christine Schaefer, Assistant Superintendent.
Good evening, School Board Chair Schwartz, School Board members, Superintendent Nielsen. Tonight we're here to seek your approval for forming a cooperative for high school dance and also a cooperative for Nordic skiing. This would be a cooperative agreement with the 3 comprehensive high schools, Woodbury, Park, and Eastridge. As members of the Minnesota State High School League, we're required to follow bylaws related to any cooperative in athletics. These bylaws state that as a school district, we need to prove that we do not have enough athletes in a particular activity and therefore need a cooperative to sustain the activity and provide that experience for students. At this time, I'd like to invite Jody Loeblein-Lecker from Woodbury High School to share additional details about both of these.
Good evening, Board Chair Schwartz, board members, and Superintendent Nielsen. Tonight, I will not be asking for any construction plans on dance studios or artificial snow machines. So please know that that is not a request. I do have our Woodbury High School dance coach, Katie Hermeyer, here with us. She's a teacher at the alternative high school as well. And thank you for listening. As we talk about cooperatives, cooperatives are when we end up, sorry, I didn't plan this, and here we go. I'm just going to press enter. Cooperatives are when we have an agreement between 2 or more high schools to join together to form a state high school league team. We have one state high school league cooperative currently at Woodbury High School, and that's our girls hockey program. And that has existed since about 2014. I will share with you that we are currently in a situation where we have far more girls hockey players than we've had in the past, and so that's a good thing. But we're in a situation right now with dance and Nordic ski are 2 sports in which our numbers are low. And so as we look at that, I'm going to explain some of the different pieces and reasons why, because both of the sports are a little bit different, but we're really talking about participation. In order for us to move forward with a cooperative agreement, we have to have section approval, school board approval, and state high school league approval, and then every 2 years, we have to have the signature of everybody in the co-op. And it's really easy when it's SoWashCo County schools. When it's a bunch of other schools that we have for girls hockey, it can be a challenge to get everybody's signature and to get that done in a timely manner. So the first one I'm going to talk about is our Power Nordic Co-op team, and this is the logo that they use. They actually have maroon uniforms because they operate and consider themselves one team. They are currently scored as a conference team. So in our Suburban East Conference competition, they actually have 1 score, and they continue to get scored that way through conference. And so we've been operating as one team, and it makes it difficult when we go to sections because we have 3 schools. We are led by 1 coach. We have several assistant coaches, 3 or 4 of them. And then we're assigned to 2 different sections. So that means that Woodbury and Eastridge compete in Section 3 and Park competes in Section 1. And that requires us to split our coaches. It requires us to split our huts. We probably will never have another season like we did this year where people were able to wear t-shirts and spandex. Typically, we are trying to find indoor spaces to stay warm. And when we talk about the huts, they're like ice fishing igloos, and they have warming areas in there for the kids. And so we really have to spread our resources for that. We also, as we are considered one team for the conference, we train together all year. And so we split each other for sections, and it really takes a toll to our team because we don't have the same teammates there. We don't have the same number of competitors that are there supporting us and knowing where we're at. And so there's some morale that's lost when we do that. When we take a look at sections, why it's in particular and challenging is because we've been in a situation where we are actually putting skiers that don't have enough experience to compete in sections. It's like sometimes asking a 9th grade basketball player to go into a varsity basketball game and they don't have the skill level or the speed to go. And if we choose to not put that inexperienced skier in, then we just forfeit that spot. And so that's what we've been doing, and when I show you the numbers here, you'll see how that's a challenge. If we do have cooperative approval, the outcomes would be that we'd be able to field our teams during competition. We'd have appropriate and safer section racing conditions for both our team as well as opponents, and then we'd have better team morale and chemistry. We would hopefully have higher placement at our section races, and because we were doing better, we'd also hope that we'd have higher recruitment. Now, if there ever came to be a time that we would not be able that our teams were too big, we would look to dissolve it, because ideally we'd like to keep as separate teams so that we have more opportunities for competition. But in our current numbers, we're not able to do that. When we look at our current numbers with our skiers, right now Eastridge boys are literally the only team that is able to field a section team. And when we look at what a section team consists of, it consists of 11 racers. There are 5 pursuit racers, and they ski on the afternoon and mornings, a 2-day race of classic and skate. And then they'll ski that same afternoon in a relay. And in the relay, you have 2 teams of the same gender. And then you have 2 alternates that can compete in either one. And so if you need 11 people to fill a section roster, and these are our numbers right here, we literally do not fill a section roster for anybody other than the Eastridge boys team. And that's our issue. Current ski cooperatives that exist are listed here up on the board, and you'll notice that there's larger schools as well. So it's not just the smaller schools. We do have some large schools. You might ask, well, what have we been doing? At the end of last year in May, we had a Zoom meeting for the families and students to participate. It was June. Not many people were thinking about skiing. We didn't have great attendance. I asked Drew to follow back up. He sent emails. We still didn't have great attendance, but we don't have a lot of numbers with that. Our coach is a Spanish teacher at Park, and he has tried in his flyers, well, we'll have pizza at the meeting just to get kids there, different things like that. We've sought and had section approval from 3AA for us to move forward with it. And so we've tried to do larger recruitment efforts by having more flyers in the schools, by announcing and getting the meeting information out earlier. The past 2 years, we've had summer programs in which the Booster Club has looked to buy the roller skis to try and get more people out in the summer. And we haven't been able to garnish that support for the ski program, for the Nordic ski program. Which is ironic, because on the other side, our alpine ski programs, at least with Woodbury and Eastridge, have high numbers and are doing well. But Nordic ski is a little bit different, and you don't get to go down as many hills. You have to climb up a lot. So there's some challenges as it's presented with it. So that's the information that I would share with you about Nordic. Do you have any questions?
Jody, what section will they compete in?
We would compete in 3.
Is that
pending state high school league approval? That's where they would put us.
So that's where Woodbury and Eastridge are currently?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so I know that right now the Nordic ski team has captains at each school, and children get varsity letters who maybe don't deserve varsity letters. I'm not speaking about anyone who lives in my house, but what will be happening with that? Is that expected to continue as normal?
For sure. We still need representation from every school, so we'd still continue to have leaders for all of our schools. We'd have letters. We'd have that different recognition that currently exists.
Okay.
For sure. I did not say that an average, if we could say, hey, this would be, if we could have 20 kids per school, that would be an ideal area for us to say, nope, we're not going to have a co-op anymore. That would allow for us to dissolve if we're able to reach some of those threshold numbers.
Jody, if you were to reach those numbers and dissolve the co-op, do you anticipate any issues with that? I don't know what that process is.
We would still operate as one team, and in the conference, we'd still have one head coach. That's currently what we have set up for alpine ski as well. So it wouldn't be, assistant coaches may be requested to add more because we had a larger number of kids, and we have kids in, as you race with Nordic, it's not like Alpine where you stay in one area and it's real fast. You're in different areas, and it's hard to see. But short of that, I would say adding assistant coach would be the only thing that would be a financial obligation if we were to dissolve and separate because we had larger numbers.
Thanks.
All right, so at this time, we would like to seek approval for the co-op for Nordic skiing for our 3 high schools.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Melinda, seconded by Eric.
Ryan.
Sorry.
Having the 2 men really
I
messes us
know.
up.
Need to
You go
look.
by Ryan now, I'm gonna go by Eric. That's fine.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Now we will move on to 7.2, and that is the dance team co-op also presented by Christine Schaefer, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you. Yep,
And
Jody.
Jody.
So with winter dance competition, we have the possibility of essentially 4 teams, and that would be varsity and JV jazz, and then varsity and JV kick. For the State High School League, you must have a minimum of 5 dancers in any one of those areas to compete and to have a varsity event. And so when we look at those numbers, our current situation that happened last year was that Eastridge has not hosted a team for the past 3 years. Our current situation, it says 23-24, it should say 24-25. This would be what we're going into this year. Park has 6 athletes that are committed to want to dance, and they had some injuries, and with 6 athletes, it's hard because then they can really compete in only varsity if their quality is good enough to compete in varsity. And then Woodbury, we have 12 athletes that are participating. Over the course of my last 4 years here at Woodbury, we've had anywhere from 12 to 15 student athletes that have participated in our dance program. Similarly, dance, numbers of an average high kick dance team, you'd love to have 25, 30 dancers out there. Jazz, 15-ish, would be a number that would be ideal. And so with 12 athletes currently, our jazz team and our high kick team are not maximizing or have great numbers. It also prevents us from being able to have higher scores because of our numbers are low, because our formations are not able to be as complicated with our choreography. An average team during the 23-24 season in the Suburban East Conference was at least 18 dancers. The outcomes for a dance cooperative would be that we would have, all district schools would have the opportunity to participate in a dance team. As I said, Eastridge currently does not have a team. We would form a team that is comparable in size to other conference teams. We'd also be able to have a JV team, and that would allow for development of our student athletes in that sport. And as I shared with you, that would create a better opportunity for higher scores in visual effectiveness and difficulty of formations, which are both categories on the score sheet. You might ask the question, well, why don't we have enough dancers? High school dance is something that I want to say came in the late 90s, early 2000s. And when it happened, it reduced the number of cheerleaders because you saw people move in that direction to dance. I'll also say that dance studios practice 3 hours, 5 to 6 times a week. High school dancers, we have an hour and a half to 2 hours, 4 to 5 times a week. And so the commitment level is different. And the high school students who are in the studio are dancing at a different level. And so it's similar to gymnastics in that regard. And we have a lot of our own students that are in the studios. The amount of competition and practice time that they have in the studios is greater, and what they are doing is different in the studios as well. There's different types of dance that they're working on. So these are some of the different dance cooperatives that currently exist. I will add that in the past week, Tartan and North St. Paul also approved a dance cooperative for them to be together. So bigger schools as well. Prior to our school board approval, we had talked with the families. Katie had reached out and talked with them to provide better opportunities. We'd actually been in the works of adding Eastridge earlier on, and it was in late summer that Park had sort of tapped on us and said, hey, can we join too? And so that is where that came in, and had Park not done that, we would have been here with East Ridge. So do you have any questions about dance?
Do they, was it the dance, I was at the football game on Friday. Was that the dance team, is that the co-op team that performed at halftime?
So we have the performance team in the fall and then the competitive team in the winter. So this would be for the competitive team, but the fall team that performed, and we did start this year, all three schools performing together in the fall.
And that, the fall team doesn't need any sort of approval because that's just like a club, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The performance team has been a feeder to the high school program, and all three schools have struggled to have enough numbers to even host that. So that's why we've joined together, and it means to try and get better numbers as well.
Any other questions? So at this time, we'd like to seek approval for a co-op for dance for Woodbury Park and East Ridge.
Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Eric.
Okay, motion by Eric, seconded by Simi. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Okay, we will move on to 7.3, open enrollment resolution, and that will be presented by Tyrone Brookins, Assistant Superintendent.
Chair Schwartz, school board members, and Superintendent Nielsen, this evening I am seeking approval for a resolution limiting open enrollment and adopting standards for accepting and rejecting open enrollment applications for the 25-26 school year. This information was shared at a workshop meeting on September 14th. The resolution will set limits and standards for accepting and rejecting open enrollment applications as required by Minnesota statute, section 124D.03. Key points of this resolution include open enrollment limits. The number of non-resident students in any grade level would not exceed the lesser of 1 to 3% of our total enrollment at that grade level in our district, or the number of District 833 residents enrolled in other districts under the Enrollment Options Act. Program, class, and building capacity. Open enrollment will be denied if the program, class, or building reaches capacity defined by a need for additional space, need for additional staff, or significant changes that will impact educational quality. Capacity considerations, decisions will be based on various factors, including our staff to student ratios, our current and projected enrollment, facility size, and also recommendations from our health authorities. Our school capacities for each school are established, and schools will be closed to open enrollment once they reach 90% capacity at the elementary level or 95% capacity for our middle and high schools. Schools currently closed and recommended to continue to be closed for new open enrollment at the elementary level. We have Bailey Elementary School, Great Cloud Elementary School, Pine Hill Elementary School, and Red Rock Elementary School. The middle schools, Cottage Grove Middle School, Lake Middle School, Open Middle School, and also Woodbury Middle School. And our three comprehensive high schools, East Ridge High School, Park High School, and Woodbury High School. This resolution ensures adherence to enrollment limits while maintaining high educational standards across our district. At this time, we would like to request the adoption of this resolution for the 25-26 school year.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Pat, seconded by Simi. Any comments? Seeing none, this is a resolution, so we will need a roll call vote. Dana?
Ryan Clark,
Yes.
Sharon Van Leer,
Yes.
Eric Tessmer,
Yes.
Pat Driscoll. Yes. Melinda Doles,
Yes.
Simi Petniak,
Yes.
Katie Schwartz.
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to 7.4, and that is our workers' comp insurance renewal, and that will be presented by Chris Blackburn, Director of Business Services.
So I kept teasing everybody in finance today. I said, so are you going to watch the Chris show tonight? Because I was going to text Dan Pine and see how many in a row did you have for admin reports. So we're going to try to beat a record tonight. Good evening, Chair Schwartz, members of the school board, Superintendent Nielsen. I'm here tonight to discuss the workers' compensation insurance renewal. The district has contracted with the SFM Mutual Insurance Company for workers' compensation since the 2010-2011 policy period. The 24-25 renewal reflects an increase in total premium due largely to increases in total payroll and a slight increase in the experience mod. The district and SFM continue ongoing efforts to control claims expense through workers' comp safety programs, return to work programs, and more proactive claims management. A 5-year rate renewal history with SFM is included below. I'll note that the change in premiums between 2021 and the 25 final one showing is just over $24,000. In that time frame, I would say that's pretty good. The proposed premium for 24-25 is just over $1.1 million. The district does also participate in a unique retention plan offered by SFM selectively for Minnesota School District qualify, so we're fortunate to qualify. We are eligible for a return premium if the claim experience performs favorably. So if our claims come in lower than our premium, they'll never increase our premium if the results are otherwise, but if we are lower, we'll receive a rebate on a premium rebate. Since 2014, the district has received more than $890,000 through participation in this plan. The most recent check was just over $77,000. Administration recommends approval of the workers' compensation insurance renewal with SFM Insurance Company for the period October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Simi, seconded by Melinda. Any comments or questions?
I just had one question, Chris. The premiums that you have for the years prior to 24-25, are those net of the rebate, or those are before the rebate?
Those were actually before the rebate.
Okay, thanks.
Any other? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. On to 7.5, and that is our proposed levy for taxes payable in 2025, presented by Chris Blackburn, Director of Business Services.
I did joke that I wanted just to walk back and forth each time, but I don't know that I need those steps this evening. So good evening again. Tonight we are seeking approval of the preliminary tax levy for taxes payable in 2025. Each year, the school board must approve a preliminary levy by September 30th. Our levy provides about 27% of the district's general fund revenue and 32% of the district's total revenue. MDE provides our levy reports, and almost every levy has some type of limit determined either by law, by the school board, or by the voters as they approve operating levies and bond elections. We've attached a summary of the levy which shows the various levies. In total, the preliminary levy is about $128 million, which is an increase of 1.2%. This does not mean that everyone's taxes, of course, will go up by 1.2% as property tax values continue to increase as well. So again, we're in that favorable and fortunate scenario in our communities of those growing market values. The taxable market value, referendum market value, and tax capacity all increased over 11%. And again, some of the various levies are based on different, depending on the levy, are different categories of those. This levy amount could change as MD continues to update the information. As at the Truth in Taxation hearing and presentation in December, we should have information on the tax impact of this levy. We're asking the school board to approve the maximum preliminary levy, and that is a maximum, not a dollar amount, but the word. We ask for this rather than this specific amount, as once the levy is approved, you cannot increase, however, you can decrease the levy amount. The reason as well is that this also allows us to reflect any adjustments between now and then from MDE as they continue to issue those preliminary levy reports. With that, I'm asking for a motion to approve the levy at the maximum.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
Motion by Pat, seconded by Simi. Any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, on to 7.6, and that's a purchase agreement for Light the Way Church, and that will also be presented by Chris Blackburn.
All right, well, good evening once again. South Washington County Schools at its school board meeting on August 22nd had a discussion and allowed for public comment on the Minnesota Department of Education Commissioner's review and comment on proposed financing for the purchase and remodeling of a facility property for the transition program. I won't say that fast 3 times. The Special Education Transition Program project includes purchasing Light the Way Church, remodeling the building and site, and in addition to the building. The district has negotiated a purchase and sale agreement with Light the Way Church to purchase the property and build existing facility for $1.7 million. This purchase will be reimbursed from proceeds of the Certificates of Participation Series 2024B, which we're anticipating issuing later this fall. Jody Zesba was at the August business meeting
discussing that, and that it was authorized by the resolution approved by the board at that August 22nd meeting. The purchase agreement was attached to the board agenda or the board packets, and at this time we would recommend approval of the resolution to purchase Light the Way Church.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, you both said it at the same time. Now you're. Okay, so that was
Eric,
motion
either or.
by Melinda and seconded by Ryan. Any comments? Okay, this is also a roll call. Dana?
Sharon Van Leer,
Approved.
Eric Tessmer,
Yep.
Pat Driscoll,
Yes.
Melinda Doles,
Yes.
Simi Petniak,
Yep.
Ryan Clark,
Yep.
Katie Schwartz.
Yes. Motion passes. Okay, now we are on to 7.7, and that's easements with the city of Cottage Grove.
Thank you again. The City of Cottage Grove is seeking a permanent access easement for Lot 1, Block 1 of New Oltman Middle School for the purpose of providing access to the hydrants which are installed upon the property. There's actually 3 attached in the board. The second 2 are the City of Cottage Grove is seeking to amend 2 existing permanent easements for storm sewer for Lot 2, Block 1, New Oltman Middle School. Those have both been recorded with the Washington County back in 2017. The purpose of the amended easement agreements is to adjust existing easements to accommodate the construction of the new addition at Oltman Middle School. Administration recommends approval of the permanent easement for the hydrant access, as well as the 2 amended permanent easement agreements for the storm sewer between South Washington County Schools and the City of Cottage Grove.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, seconded by Simi. Any comments? Questions? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And 7.8 is our storm water management facilities agreement presented by Chris Blackburn, Director of Business Services.
And once again, good evening. So I am going to try, I was going to text Dan after this and say, I made it in this many minutes with this many items. The district has an easement agreement with the City of Cottage Grove to use the stormwater pond on city property for an irrigation system at Oltman Middle School. Stormwater management facilities refers to an irrigation and stormwater reuse system that utilizes the stormwater pond on city property. So again, we can leverage that for the irrigation system. The city and school district desire to set forth their understanding with respect to the construction, repair, and maintenance of the stormwater management facilities and the responsibility relating to the cost of the repair and maintenance of the stormwater management facilities. Administration recommends approval of the stormwater management facilities agreement between South Washington County Schools and the City of Cottage Grove.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Simi, seconded by Eric. Any questions or comments?
I have a quick question. So it says here, the understanding with respect to construction, repair, and maintenance. So this is between the city and the school district?
Correct.
Do we have a resolution of that? Like, who is responsible for the repair and maintenance?
So in the document that was attached in the actual agreement, it does go into detail regarding who's responsible for which things.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, now we'll move on to 8.0, and that is our superintendent report.
All right, to start out with, on September 16th, the City of Woodbury held their annual development tour of the city, and we traveled by coach bus, and we were reminded of how much growth is still occurring in our communities. And a number of board members attended. We appreciate the City of Woodbury hosting this event. It's informative and serves as a great reminder of how fortunate we are to be in growing communities. But everywhere we traveled, it was just amazing to see that there's more developments going up and just really how much more land and space there is available in our community. On Tuesday of this week, I got to start my day bright and early in the transportation department. And I was ever so lucky to ride along with bus driver Ron, and bus driver Ron happens to be in the audience tonight along with Miss Tammy and Miss Zach, who are also bus drivers in the school district. No, did I say Miss Zach? Okay, Mr. Zach. I apologize. I think it was supposed to be Miss Tammy and Zach. But let me tell you this. Number one, I'm an early riser, so it worked out well. But I had the opportunity to start by being at transportation early to just hear what our drivers had to say, and it was really fun. I felt super welcomed. They were grabbing their tablets, and of course, you know that we started our new tracking system. But before we get to the tracking system, you must know that there is at least a good 30 minutes spent on the pre-planning trip. And it is everything from pulling on every single mirror. Ron, I listened. I want you to know. You have to literally unbuckle the hood, and you have to have it open. You have to check the oil, the transmission fluid. You have to check the blinker fluid, the brake fluid. I mean, everything. You are checking everything. And what I learned is that it's actually required, and that if a bus of ours got pulled over, you have to make sure every day you do that pre-planning trip. When they come back in the afternoon, that's not required. And that's all just to get the bus ready to start and get it ready to back out of the garage. And then I realized there's the backing out of the garage. Now, I drive a Suburban, and I thought, well, this must not be that hard, but clearly it is extremely difficult to back a bus out of a garage. But nonetheless, we got onto the bus. I got to watch the Tyler tracking system, and I will just tell you, I was so amazed. First of all, this little system, this little tracking pad that they have, has full GPS of their routes, which is wonderful. It's great if we have consistent drivers, which many times we do, but we also have a number of sub-drivers and drivers who are filling in. And in that particular case, it gives GPS of the entire route. To the point, it gives the GPS, you stop at a route, the names and the pictures of the students come up. And so Mr. Ron knew exactly who should be getting on the bus. Kids scanned onto the bus. Every so often, there was a student that he had already known and built a relationship, and he knew that either they were new to the district or perhaps they haven't gotten their badge yet. You know, he called one student, Tyler, did you get your badge yet? He said no. And so then Mr. Ron can press the button that loads him onto the bus, and it turns his little icon green. So at the end of the day, you could very quickly at the end, you could have your load count. You could see who was missing from the ride. It was just incredible and very well done. I'm going to say that 80% of the drivers, and the technology is a bit complicated, but 80% of the drivers appear to be really happy, and they're still learning. And so as I shared with the drivers that, you know, we're still looking at figuring out these kinks and bumps with the technology up until MEA. We know that we're always going to have students that may not have their cards. But if we know they're on our bus route, they're going to get onto the bus. And I really compared it similar to lunches. We never take a lunch away from the student. If we know a student needs to ride the bus, we're always going to allow them to get onto the school bus. But it was a great opportunity. I was reminded how sleepy the kids are in the morning. And Mr. Ron did a nice job of greeting all of them, and most of them kind of grunted out a hello. And I will also tell you, I was reminded of what elementary, kindergarten, first, and second graders mostly look like on a school bus when the seats are at least a head taller than they are. Mr. Ron has some rules about sitting on the seats and not touching other kids, and well, they really enjoyed doing that, didn't they, Mr. Ron? Especially when it was a sibling, but the seats are so high, you can't see, so you either climb over or you climb around. But overall, it was just a great morning. I know Dana loves when I'm out in the schools or in departments. She's like, you always come back so happy. Like, it's something about the kids. They're just great. And Ron, thank you. I also offered to go out again after MEA to take a look at just how the system is running. But we feel really fortunate that with the system during our opening weeks, we did not have a student that was unaccounted for or lost. And that's a good sign that it's working. And we know that it will get better because the system is new for our drivers as well as all of our leaders. So thank you as well to Abby, who's out there, Abby, who's now leading our transportation department and overseeing that, as well as our transportation leadership. We know that there are still some areas to fix in the way of routing, and those things will continue to be addressed. This coming Monday, September 30th, is a no school day for students. Staff will be engaged in REDAC training as well as HBPS activities. I will share with you that our district staff, our teaching staff, is very grateful for the time in the calendar to complete this required training. As we've talked with our teachers, depending upon the teacher, it takes less time or more time, but if it takes more time, they're grateful for the time that has been given to them. Finally, it's fall, and that means that homecoming festivities at our high schools. Today I was out at Eastridge. They are celebrating high school this week. Woodbury will follow next week, and then Park will round out the spirit October 7th through the 11th. So a lot of fun things happening throughout the schools. And then finally, some of you may have seen that our board members have little bundt cakes over. They got to kind of choose and select their cake. But this month has been set aside to honor and recognize our school board members. On behalf of our executive cabinet, we want to extend a thank you for your commitment and leadership to our schools, our students, and our communities. As part of our appreciation recognition, we have purchased buntlet cakes for each of you to enjoy. And I know you can eat it all in one sitting because I've done it before. As you indulge, please be reminded of the important work that you do in providing governance and vision for the school district. And we want to say thank you to each one of you.
Thank you. On to 9.0, and that is our future meeting dates. October 10th, 2024, School Board Workshop Meeting here at the District Service Center at 6 p.m. Then October 24th, School Board Business Meeting, also here at the District Service Center at 6 p.m. And with that, 10.0, and we are adjourned.